I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value. So, I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
Hey, welcome to the show. I'm Mike Kuntz. This is the No Limit Show, and we've got a very exciting show this evening. And, of course, that was the great Peter Finch of Network. We always put that into our show to get some enthusiasm as to what's going on out there. People are very, very frustrated. So we have about, I would say, 7 days and about 7 hours, maybe less, to one of the biggest elections in American history on November 5th. We have a presidential election. We have elections across the country for very important Senate races, congressional races. And we're going to have a congressional candidate this evening who I also interviewed last year when she ran for county commissioner. Mary Jo Guinchard, and she's the nominee for the Republican Party in the 5th District, and she is running against the incumbent, Josh Gottheimer, who was elected in 2016. And why don't we bring up the picture of both of them so we can see the two candidates together, side by side. Okay, so there we have the two candidates, Mary Jo and Congressman Josh Gottheimer. And these are the candidates that are running in the 5th District, Republican and Democrat. And these races are pretty hotly contested, and they're tough to run. I mean, my hat goes off to the candidates when they're running for these races, because there's a lot of work that has to get done, especially in the field. As you say, door knocking, sign hanging, marketing, going to meetups, and just going out there and working very hard. So what I want to do is, before I bring on Mary Jo, I'm going to clip hers when she was at the border, and we'll run that clip right now.
Good morning, everybody. It's around 3 in the morning. Mary Jo for Congress, New Jersey, District 5. We are here still in San Luis at the Trump wall, learning so much information of what's really going on. This current administration, your Congress that's in right now, they are not letting these cameras be activated so we can stop all this crime, all the drug that's coming across with the fentanyl. They throw these ladders across these 30-foot tall, walls that Trump has erected, and they throw the drugs over, or they try to climb it and then come over, broken hips, broken legs, unbelievable. Then they take off with motorcycles and take the drugs out for those that was on this side waiting for the drugs just to be thrown over with ropes, what have you. In front of me back here, you've got so many of the bollards that they have not allowed to be erected. So kind of call it like a graveyard section that's going on over here, with so many. Oh my gosh, this is your tax dollars, everybody. Mary Jo for Congress. Don't forget to vote, donate. MaryJoForCongress.com. I'll be back with you with more information. Can't wait to get home and tell you so much information. You'll just be amazed. Have a good morning, everybody.
Mary Jo, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your audience as well. Thank you.
Yeah. So why don't we start off, give your bio, basically your background in politics, and you have served in quite a few different positions. And of course you ran for county commissioner last, which was a big profile position. And to be honest, you came very close to winning that race. I remember it was late into the night. In fact, a few days, we had thought that you were coming out on top. Looked like the numbers were all there. And then we got a little bad news a couple of days later. So give the audience and all the viewers an idea of your background.
My background, well, professionally, I'm an actress that I had performed all over the country, New York, have been overseas as well. Had a fantastic career doing that. And in the midst of that, I would be what was called the deputy of the company. and I would negotiate between the professional cast and the production company to make sure that everything was all in good order. If there were any issues, we would just make sure that we could navigate waters and problem solve. Make sure that we had solutions to anything because that curtain has to go up every night. So because of that, fast forward a bit, and I was asked to become, to run for trustee, which is normally, a council position is another name for it. Became a trustee, and then eventually became the mayor. After that, I sat on the planning board in a county. The mayor and trustee were both elected positions, and the county position was appointed. Ran, as you know, last year. It was wonderful being on your show last year when I was running for county commissioner here in Bergen County. You stated very clearly we thought we were asleep and we were coming in as a winner, and then hours into the next day, things changed and went a different way. They asked if I would consider Congress, and great thought with my family and all. We decided that would be a fantastic, thing for all of us. My family was all 100% into it because you can't run in these positions, Mike, without your family being behind you. Because as you know, it's a huge commitment. But the reward is we're going to save our country. So I had no question in my mind that I wanted to do it. Just wanted to make sure my family was on board. And here we are today, and we are 7 days away, and however many hours you calculated to election day. But we're already voting early right now, in person.
Right. I want to make it clear also that I did invite the congressman on tonight. We called the office and we sent them a communique 2 days in a row, and we hadn't heard anything back. So I'm assuming it's either scheduling issue or whatever issue it was, but they decided decline to come on the show this evening. So I just wanted to make that clear. So let's go on to, I think we're going to look at an interview you had with the Spotlight interview, which was about 2.5 minutes. And we're going to run to that one, and then we're going to get some ideas about policy, and we can talk so much about what we had in your policy background and framework. So let's go to that interview.
What do you hope to achieve by going to Congress?
There's nothing better than, as I said, connecting with your constituents. And right now, I feel that we need better representation in District 5. Mm-hmm. They deserve better. They deserve their voices heard, not just voting extreme one side on the left is what's been going on. We see what's happening with the inflation, the border, not backing our blue, crime, fentanyl. There's just so many issues. And unfortunately, my opponent has been voting 99.9% with the Pelosi, Biden, Harris administration. Our borders are not closed. We have horrible fentanyl issues. The inflation, people aren't being able to afford the gas for their cars, or do they go buy groceries, go to work? These are real life issues right now. And so we need to be energy independent. All of these things, for me, are kind of one and the same. They're meshing together. And if you can't do that in the years you've been in office, then it's time to make the change. And he's running for governor. So if he's going to run for governor, decide.
Not formally declared.
Not formally
not
declared.
Officially or formally
No,
declared.
Exactly, not officially.
But okay, let's take one of those items. Let's talk about border control and immigration, because there was a package that was put before Congress and the Senate, and it ended up being Republican members who quashed it in order to get a border and immigration policy on the table and passed and on the president's desk. How do you see yourself helping to broker better deals and more bipartisan deals?
Because I've done it in the past. You have to. This is one of the issues I feel that we're lacking in government right now.
Bipartisanship or the border
Talking,
policy?
Just speaking to one another. Just like you and I are able to speak, and we may have different views on something. And by the time you end up having that conversation, no matter how difficult that conversation may be, you're going to end up having a good solution, because both sides have something to bring to the table. But right now, our border situation has gone so far down the rabbit hole that it's a crisis. It's a crisis. We have children missing. We know there's trafficking going on. We know the fentanyl issues that are going on. We have let in over, they're saying now up to 20 million, people have come in illegally. We don't know where 3 million are. These are things that we have to sit down and be able to listen to one another. For America, we have 300 million Americans. We need to make sure they're safe.
Well, there you go. So that was really a nice interview. And we took a segment from the entire interview. Maybe you can extrapolate on that interview that we just saw. Go a little deeper into it.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, when you were talking about you had invited Josh, I'm so happy that you also have extended out to have Josh and I together on the same venue, right? Unfortunately, he has not been wanting, I guess, to debate me or be on the same interview with me. That I think is really sad, Mike, between you and I, because our constituents really deserve to hear both of us at the same time and be able to have this conversation that I was speaking about in this PBS interview. It's so important. And the election process is all about that, is what I think. So, thank you so much for extending that invitation out to him. The League of Women Voters did the same, as well as other, talk show hosts have also done that. And they pretty much have not heard anything from him. So
what is that about? What is that about that in such a high profile election, and they're all high profile, but especially in this district, Northern District. Why do you not see him coming and at least giving you the opportunity to have a really formal debate? Previous candidates, of course, have met up with him in debates. And I'm surprised. What's your gut feeling about that?
He's never missed a debate, as far as I know. He's been running for Congress. I don't know before that, what his history was, but for sure, this is the first time he has missed an invitation and accepted to do a debate. I cannot speak for him as why. I assume that maybe he's too busy because he's running his ghost campaign for governor. And he doesn't have the time to give to his constituents, which says a lot to me. If you cannot give to them what they need for the election you're running in, and you're running a ghost campaign, how are you going to serve the people, and how are you serving them right now? I'm a constituent too, and I am definitely not going to ever hire someone or vote for someone who cannot commit to 100% of their stay in the office that I am voting for them on.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to put up, we're going to put up, hopefully we can get these up. We're having a little technical difficulty, which we can work on later. But we're going to put up your different palm cards that have the different categories of the policies. And we're going to throw that up right now.
Into that PBS interview, which was so wonderful, that honestly, we really got to get into some very interesting issues and opinions that I have and desires that I have to serve as I'm the next Congresswoman. One that I think is really, really important is we have lost the conversation with one another in Congress, in my opinion. We have bills that are packed with too much. We need to be one issue bills so we can discuss and get through that bill so we can move on, get it voted, and then move on. Talking about the border, for one. The border, I know there was a bill on the table, but it had so much inside of it that there was no way that that bill was getting passed, correct? It just did not. That is a tragedy in my eyes. It should have been just about the border, what was needed, end of discussion. And then that border could have gotten secure. The border could have also gotten secure by a pen stroke by the President of the United States. Right now, we have a president that's running as for President of the United States. She is part of that administration, of the Biden-Harris administration, and Josh is part of that administration too. How is it that no Democrat really has been to that border to see what it's like? Visiting a safe place on the border, that's not visiting the border. That's not at all. You need to get down into those ground zeros like I've done. I've been to 2 visits down to that border just for this election alone. I'm from Texas, so I'm familiar with the border. It has never been in a worse, I call it really, it's just a disaster, absolute disaster what we have going on. We are, having trafficking. We have a fentanyl disaster happening. It's a human disaster. It's a human disaster what we see. And that's not acceptable. That's just, we could spend a whole show about the border, Mike.
Yeah, you have four different topics here, and I've gone over them. I know most of them. Of course, and illegal immigration is the one, and we've seen in the last 3.5 years anywhere from 12 million. Some estimates could say as high as 20 million. I'm not pushing the number, but there are a variety of different estimates that have come out. But the question is, and of course, the recent numbers, as you know, that were released by the Border Patrol of at least, I think it's 600,000 to 700,000 illegals who have come across that are also have a criminal background and a criminal history. I think 13,099 have a background in homicide, multiple homicides. I think there's 19,000 or 20,000 that have had it in rape, molestation, and the rest robberies and so on. And those numbers were kind of shocking when they came out last month, because we always felt that there was a problem, a security problem there. And as of course you can see, the risk to our country, even if one person, in my opinion, and I can let you comment on this, is injured by this open border, it hurts all of us. So it's really something that has put the country in a risk for security. And of course, and I'll let you speak more about the fentanyl issue and the fact that our young people are dying from fentanyl because of cartel import into our country.
It's absolutely everything you're saying. And, does it matter if it's 20 million or 15 million or 900,000 or 600,000? The whole point is it should be zero coming across this border voluntarily that we're letting it happen, right? That border should be so secure. I don't know of anywhere in the world that we can go to without our passport or whatever their form of ID is that's needed. And normally it's a passport to come in legally, to visit a country, to stay at a country, to have visas, all those correct documentations that you need of whatever's required. We are leaving our gates wide open, and the fentanyl is pouring through. It's beyond sad that our youth is dying over this. I hear of drugs that are being laced with fentanyl now. That's also a grave concern. So this is something that could have been completely avoided with the Biden-Harris, and I call it Gottheimer as well, administration, because we should not be allowing these to be happening without it being a criminal. This is a crime, what's going on. We have laws against this, and we are totally ignoring it. We're actually saying it's okay to come across and do all of this. The trafficking that's happening, that's a whole nother issue. The mere fact that we have criminals coming into our country, and we know they're coming in, they're emptying prisons, they're emptying their jails, and they're coming across. And we've got gangs coming in. This is also a very critical issue in our country. Millions have come in that we don't know where they've gone. The estimate, I think, is 3 million of very strong, abled male figures that have been trained either in a military format or with weapons. I mean, you can name this however. It's scary, not good, and it is putting our country at risk.
Right. As President Trump has said in the last rallies, interviews, that I think it's up to 180 countries. It's not just the South American part of our continent.
Exactly.
So that's very distressing to see. We don't know exactly where these people are coming. Let's move on to the balanced budget. I mean, obviously, we're at a point now where the country is, I think, heading towards 36 trillion in debt. It's already past the 35 trillion mark. We keep looking at these numbers. It's kind of hard to believe. We're at 33 trillion, then it hit 34 trillion, then it hit 35. We're kind of get used to these numbers that are so outrageously ridiculous when you're talking about trillions of dollars, aside from the fact that I think it's every 100 to 150 days, you add another $1 trillion of interest. How are you going to work in the Congress with the team down there that is trying to rein in these expenses? I mean, obviously, we only bring in about $5 trillion a year, and we're spending close to $7 trillion a year. You couldn't keep the lights on. A normal household cannot keep the lights on if you were spending that kind of money, and your expenditures way beyond your own ability to have that money available. So how are we going to solve this problem, the bankruptcy of the United States?
Well, you hit a very good point, Mike. We would not be able to turn the lights on in our own homes if we were being so irresponsible with our own budgets. So why is Washington doing that, right? So it's very, very simple. We have excess spending, obviously, that's going on, that if you were at the rally last night or you heard the rally last night, that President Trump is going to put into place Elon Musk and the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald. They're going to co-chair this committee to look at our budgets and everything. And the question was asked, was there room to trim this budget? And Elon Musk very clearly said he feels around $2+ trillion he can trim this budget.
Yeah, I heard that. Yep.
So that's a start. For sure, that's a great start. But for me, it's energy independence also, because we've been dependent on foreign oil now, and we've lost our energy independence. So what does that mean? What that means is that we're allowing the foreign countries to tell us what we're going to pay for that oil, and now we have got to charge more for that energy that we're passing on to our citizens, to the American people. So what does that mean? Well, that means that cost then gets translated into your grocery bills, your food, the makeup that the women and the men, are purchasing, the clothing that we all wear, our cars that are made, the metals, everything we touch is touching energy. So the transportation to bring those products to us, they're also going to bump in a cost because their gas charges are costing more. It's a domino effect. So if we can get our energy independence, we have plenty of resources in our own country. We know that because 4 years ago, the Trump administration had it well underhand, correct? So we know that it is very much doable. If we get back to that, that is going to be also another piece of this puzzle to bring down the inflation that we're seeing and the high cost of living. We have to allow the American people to be able to afford to pay for their mortgages, to be able to put gas in their cars so they can get to work, to be able to put food on their table and not be divvying up and figure out a priority what they can do. We are in a very critical point in history right now. We are not sustainable. And we're also taking care of these tens of millions. And yeah, as you said, it's up to 20 million that are on our payroll. We're paying for them for free, their health care, their living. We've got hotels in New York City that we know that are just now being totally turned into housing for the illegals. We are paying every ounce of their bills. We've never done that for our homeless, our seniors, and our veterans. But yet we are being charged to take care of all these illegals that have come across. We've actually given them the Biden-Harris administration. What they have done is under false pretense told all of these illegals, come to our country and you're just going to have everything. Well, that's not how that works. My great-grandparents came to this country the right way. And I'm sure many of your viewers have, some family member that has come into this country and they came in the right way for that American dream. We don't want to take that American dream away from anyone, but they have to do it the right way, because the way it's been done right now with this enormous number that has come into our borders, it's not sustainable. And then we're going to add the crime and everything else on top of that we also are having to take care of. So we can have all of these individuals either in the court system or waiting to go to court. This has got to stop. It has to.
Recently, you know that the FBI had released numbers on crime statistics across the country, but they did it about 2 months ago, and the statistics did not show that crime had decreased. It was increased, but later they found that they had softened up the numbers, and the numbers were re-released. I think some good reporting was done, and they were very extreme. I mean, you saw numbers go from 21% to 46% across the boards. Some numbers went to 80% increases, depending upon the category of crime. So obviously, crime has increased. The issue I'm trying to grasp, and we're all trying to grasp, is what's happened to the political system in our country. It seems to have become so extreme and have gone off the edges. We're not conducting ourselves politically as we did 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Sure, we had differences of opinion, Democrats, Republicans, independents, and so on. But today, there seems to be much more at stake. Seems to be something else happening aside from just these extreme policy changes that occurred after 2021. So I don't know if you're feeling that same vibe that I am, but most people are feeling that something's not working here, and maybe there's something more nefarious going on.
I would say one is common sense. We've lost common sense. We've just lost it. We've gone, I say a lot of times when I'm speaking, we've lost our way. We've just lost our way. We've gone down rabbit holes. And we, as the American people, I always say silence is deafening. We cannot be silent anymore. We must stand with our morals, our values, and not be afraid to say that that's how we feel. It's actually okay. Why are we becoming so numb that it's all right to have an illegal come in and murder an American citizen or anyone? Have we lost the value of life? Have we lost the value of, we are civil servants? This is not a career. We are advocates to the American people. But what's happened with the political system is the politicians, and I will call it politicians because that's what they've turned this into, a career. They're making money, they're day trading, they're doing all sorts of things that they shouldn't be doing. And I'm sure you're aware there's a bill on the table that says that you should not be touching any of the stock market. And the exact language of the bill, I don't have it in front of me to verbalize that, but I will just summarize is what it's saying is that you should not be able to do this trading because they have sensitive information about anything that's on the table that is going to be on the stock market. But yet our politicians are being allowed to play in the market. No, that's not acceptable. They should be treated just as if they were a banker or an employee on Wall Street. You have restrictions about all of that. But for some reason, that has just been held up on the table, not been pushed through. So those are we're just touching upon it, but it's common sense, treating this as a career instead of an advocate, and that you're the voice for the people, taking their voices of your district, as we're talking for Congress. I will be taking the voices of CD5 and representing all people. I want to be able to have everyone seated at my table. And someone said, well, what does that mean? That's just so frivolous. No, I really mean it. I want anyone that feel that they have something to bring to me that I need to be more well-versed in, or their opinion needs to be heard. We need to have those conversations. Not all conversations are easy. And Mike, you know that, I'm sure. But they have to be done with respect and being able to listen to one another, because that's when you get the best solutions, is when everyone is able to put their ideas on the table, everyone is respectful, everyone is willing to listen, and then the best solutions can come out of that, hopefully.
Great. We're going to go to another clip now. We're going to talk a little bit about energy after this, but I'm also going to highlight a couple of these bills that, your Josh Gottheimer had voted for in the last few years. I have quite a few in front of me. I'm going to kind of choose 2 or 3 just to go over, and then I'll have you make a comment on those particular. But let's go to there's a little PBS clip that I kind of like the clip too. It was with both of you sitting on the couch and kind of giving a personal touch to the presidents that you both like.
Ronald Reagan. I really, really love Ronald Reagan. We have similar, lives, except he was a very, very famous movie star. But I liked his communication with peace and people, and I just felt he was just a natural.
Abraham Lincoln, because of the courage he had to take on slavery, and George Washington for being willing to step down after one term. I cannot answer that question. There's so many things that are important to me. Right now, I'd say everything about affordability and reproductive freedom. And why? Because of what we're facing as a country after this court did what it did, and making sure people can afford to live and stay in the greatest state in America.
Inflation, number one. We really feel that that's just hurting our country and people the hardest. We see it. The groceries, the gas, we need to be more energy independent. And you can sort of couple that with the closing the border. Critical. And they really, for me, it's almost a flip. They're both 1 and 2 right there, just right there, and it's affecting our whole country. I want them to know this is their America as well, and to get involved, know their vote counts, to enjoy life, and smell the roses a little bit. And as maybe corny that sounds, that's how we all grew up, and we did okay. But to just sit back and process things before you do a knee-jerk reaction, even though our society is very fast-paced, they can dial it back a little bit to where it's not too much.
Participate, engage, see what's going on, read about the person you're voting for, and participate. You actually have to vote. It's the greatest gift we have, but it doesn't count if you don't use it. I'm grateful that she's running, because it's important that we have a good democratic process.
He's someone's dad, brother, father. We should never cut down our opponents. He has been out there doing what he believes, and that's what he thinks. And I give every politician credit for that, because he's doing it. He's not talking about it, he's doing it.
Okay, that was a nice little clip that was put together with that. But let's talk about your opponent. As I said, I invited him here. It would have been great if he had come, because then we could have had an exchange of ideas and concepts, and he could have given his ideas to the listeners so they could understand better what he himself is trying to accomplish, versus what your policies and what your feelings were. But for example, he voted for the HR 2617 omnibus spending bill, which added $2 trillion to the deficit. He voted yes. Revenues will amount to about $5 trillion, with over $7 trillion of spending. That was in 23, and of course that's gone up now into 24. He also voted for HR 5377, which is the Inflation Reduction Act, which belies the name. We know it's kind of does the opposite. Does nothing but increases inflation, with additional $80 billion to hire 87,000 IRS agents, grossly overspends on badly planned environmental programs, the green scam, I guess. Result, additional $1.38 trillion to the deficit, add to the deficit. He voted yes for that. Then you have HR 5376, Build Back Better. We've heard all that, right? Build Back Better. They don't use it anymore, for they stopped using it about a year ago because it failed. It's a disgrace. So, I hate to say it, but it's true. It's true. It's a fact. So HR 3684, infrastructure bill. These were coupled together, and HR 1319, coronavirus appropriations. This is an unchecked spending, which Budget House government estimates will add $10 trillion taxpayer dollars to the current deficit as years come by. This includes bills on gender identity, class auto mileage tax plan, deficits by 2030 could reach as high as $40 trillion, taxpayer dollars as high as $45 trillion without interest and tax spent. He voted yes on that. This is just a few of the bills. I have all the bills that he voted on here, but let's just take those three because those hit hardest. These are extreme spending bills that don't sunset at all and will continue to accrue interest and spending. So when I think of that Josh has voted for these, and again, I want to make it clear, this is not a show that bashes Josh. I would have had Josh on and we would have talked openly. But I think that this has to come to the fore. You are the candidate that's offering a choice, offering a vision, a different vision and choice. What do you say when you see that he's voted for these extreme spending bills, which are going to put our country into debt for 10, maybe 20 years?
Right. Well, first of all, I cannot tell you how I am so disappointed that he and I are not having this discussion together, because that would be a wonderful, wonderful thing to do. And you have extended the invitation, like I've stated, and so many others. And the constituents really deserve to hear. I want to hear Josh's explanation of why he voted.
Of course,
for all
that's
of
why
this.
I invited him. Yeah.
I would love to hear, that's the conversation I'm talking about. I would like to know what his end game was on all of this. What was his vision? What was his ideas that brought him to do that? If you look at all of his bills, he has voted 99.9% always with the I keep calling it Biden, with the Biden-Harris administration.
Well, they are hiding. It's a hiding
They're
administration.
hiding. So maybe that's why I keep saying that, because they're just not wanting to interview or do anything. Everything has to be perfectly scripted for them to speak.
Absolutely.
But seriously, I don't know why he voted for these things. I would have loved to sit down with him and had this one-on-one. No, don't even have it as a debate. Have it as a conversation so we can all understand where I'm from and what I would have done different and what I will do different. So first of all, that's what I'm so excited about, this Trump administration coming into play. And he is already looking at some of the brightest minds to be co-chairs for these type of budgets and overviews, to look at what is going on and where we have to cut out and trim, because a lot of these expenses are unnecessary. Let's talk about energy, for instance. We already know how we can fix that. First of all, we've got, for some reason, these contracts were done to put windmills in the ocean. That is the most absurd thing I've ever heard of. Did anyone really think through the reaction of the action of them putting windmills in the ocean? Was it hurricane proof? Are the blades going to drop off? Is it going to hurt the bird life? Is it going to hurt the sea life? Is it going to hurt the small business, the fishermen that go out for their business to fish in those waters? Is it going to hurt the environment of the people that have bought homes to live on those shores for their peace, their serenity? Is it going to hurt them with their health, their hearing? They're destroying the seafloor with tonnage of concrete and the disruption of that. Those type of issues should have been discussed before the first drill went into that ocean to bring in all of that. I would love to ask that question. Was that discussion done? Was there an environmental study done? Because I can tell you, if it would have been done really effectively, those windmills would have not been put in that ocean, for sure. They have their place, just like every form of energy has its place. I saw tons of windmills over in Yuma, Arizona, where I just was at the border. They were in the middle of the desert. There were not many homes surrounding them, and they're doing their thing. But are they really producing as much energy that you need based on the energy that it has to be produced to make all of the other mechanics work in the whole big picture of producing that energy from the windmills? So there are a lot that I would have asked Josh sitting across from him about these type of things. Instead of them worrying about shutting our border down, which is a domino effect to me for everything, they were worried about passing these other type of bills that had lots of other stuff just pushed into them that have caused us trillions of dollars of more, debt and expenses, instead of fixing problems, energy independence, shutting the border down, backing our police officers so that the crime is under control, instead of us having to clean up the disasters. We have a disaster right now, as you know, in North Carolina, where we have had a hurricane come down that coastline there, and it has destroyed, and we don't have enough money in our coffers. Even today, they were reporting to take care of the disaster that happened weeks ago, because what we've done is we reallocated that money to our illegals. Now, there will be some that will argue with us about this and say that's not true. Well, then where did the money go? Where did the money go? Because that was the cost that was for natural disasters. Now, luckily, there weren't windmills off that coastline that we know of, that I know of, that the hurricane, but they are when you go up far north. Yet to see a hurricane come up really strong up this coastline. That would be also a disaster. That would cost us more money also. So all of this, if you see where I'm going, they're not thinking through what they're passing. And you don't have to spend months and months to do it. These could be discussions if you are having really honest, open discussions with your Congress to have that could literally shed all of this and shed some light and make sure that you're doing what's best for the American public. But instead, we're like fighting to keep the borders open. We're fighting to hurt a former president that really it's gone nowhere, because we've seen how the courts have just pretty much put a kibosh on most of that. And yet they're still doing it. They're going after now the mayor of New York City because he said something that, goodness, it was in favor of, this was not a good thing, having open borders. These are all these policies that we're talking about. They have put through Congress that have cost the American public a lot of money.
Don't you see a dichotomy or such a difference between the expenditures for policies like the Green Deal, and you mentioned windmills, and also endless wars, that we're still getting ourselves into endless wars.
Yes.
We're spending money, and in the end, the price tag, if they continue on in that administration in D.C. for the illegal going forward, could total up to $400 billion. The money is not available. They're going to have to get it. That's why they hired all these IRS agents. But the point is, there seems to be such a range of differences where you're offering the people who suffered in Hawaii and those brothers and sisters in North Carolina, a wonderful state. I have friends and relatives in that area. They were not hit by that, thank God. But $750. I mean, that's like, that's like an insult to the American people. But there's got to be an end game as to why they're moving money in one direction and controlling that money to kind of control the public, versus treating their own American people with respect and dignity.
You hit upon a point, and I hope all your family is okay. My husband's family is in Boone, North Carolina, which we know was one of the major areas hit. And luckily they came out, sort of okay, but like everyone, they're working through it all. This is a tragedy. And you hit upon Hawaii. That was another. We must take care of America first. And we are spending so much money to do other things, like giving these illegals a really nice debit, cash, all this cash in their debit cards to go buy groceries and whatever they want. Like I said prior, we've never done that for our homeless, our veterans, or our seniors. But yet that's on us, the American taxpayer. So we've lost our way of knowing what we're supposed to do. As I am, your voted civil servant, I will be your next congresswoman. That is my job, is to make sure that my district is being taken care of, their voices are being heard, and I'm being responsible with our economy in the United States of America. Those are conversations. We've got to strip everything down. I really believe, Mike, sometimes when problems have gotten so big and so out of control, sometimes you need to strip them down and get them back down to the base again and see where we need to go. That's what I want to do as your next Congresswoman. I want to be able to have those open conversations, be able to work across the aisle, because we have to. We won't get anything done if we don't. And that's how I did as a mayor. I'm not talking about an idea that I'm just pulling out of my hat. I've actually done this as a mayor, as a trustee, sitting on a planning board of a county. I was a police commissioner as well. I've always been listening, or trying to listen to my best ability, to have everyone have a voice and to have their ideas brought to the table so we could solve our problems. We need to solve these problems in government now. And it's for America. We have a lot at stake. We have our safety and our security, our children. We could have a podcast for a month every day, Mike, about talking about what we need to fix. And we're going to do it. We're going to do it. And it is going to take time, but we cannot let it take forever. We have to be very careful with the time and make sure we are being extremely, right, focused. Stay focused on one thing at a time, get it done, and be very, very conscious of the timing of everything. Because what's happened is we spread everything out and just let it sit on the table. Because what do? They have thousands of pages in these bills. It's impossible to do all of that.
Right. Your opponent touts the fact that he's part of the group in Congress, which we've heard many times, the problem solvers. And
Yes.
I researched it and contacted his office just to get some feedback as to what problems are actually being solved, and I'm still looking for them. And again, over the years, Congressman Gottheimer has focused on issues surrounding the 5th District, which is important. There are specific issues that each congressperson, and you'll be doing that as well, that are specifically intrinsic to the district that you're representing. But with all these major issues, and I mean major issues that we're facing in the last 4 years that had essentially been fixed in the Trump administration, and I can quote the President Trump, as saying that if they had left most of these alone, we would have been okay, and maybe, just maybe, I wouldn't have had to run again. He's being honest, because they were working. Why they would unravel these, what was the purpose of causing all this? I mean, we can go into that to another show. I have my own view on that. I think it's a little darker than some people realize. But again, issues surrounding things that are important maybe to the district, like the expense of veterinarians insurance, outlier parts of the district that need internet, and occasional mail fraud, not heavy mail fraud, but occasional mail fraud. And the list goes on. I have a whole list. And these are most of the issues. Again, another one was transit, that we've had a transit issue with the light rail.
Yeah.
And he was trying to free. That's been going on for years, as you know. I mean, I've been around for a while, and that's been debated for almost 30 years, and it still kind of sits there, and the traffic is tough, but very tough, very difficult. I think it needs some rerouting as well. But these issues are fine locally, and stripping back some money for some grants, fire department, and so on and so forth. But our country is slowly self-destructing on levels that are unbelievable internationally and nationally. And unfortunately, these particular issues don't even come up to the issues that I believe the congressman should be speaking about. And I say that earnestly. It's not to take away from these issues or take away from Josh's intention. What do you say about that?
I say that when you don't have the right leadership in place, and I call it the top of the pyramid, which is the president and vice president, then everything's going to fall apart. And the world is looking at the United States of America, right? We should be peace through strength. We don't have strength right now. We have a president that really has not been president at all during his 3.5 years. We have a vice president who pretty much was also quiet, let's call it. I want to be quite respectful because I do respect the offices, both of the president and vice president, but they were not showing the strength that our country has had in the past. This is what has fallen apart. And then you've got the Congress that's supposed to be doing their job. Well, you have no leadership on top of the Congress, and the Senate is supposed to be doing their job. There is no leadership on top. We're lacking those two positions. That is a tragedy. That is a tragedy. And the world is looking on, wanting to take what are we doing as the example. We're not setting a good example. We've lost touch with humanity. We have lost touch with being America first. We have lost touch with the safety of our borders and of securing our borders and the safety of our people. So when you add all of this together and all of the other issues that we've talked about with energy independence, with the inflation, with crime, because I know I keep going back to all of it because it all has to do with one another. It all does. It's a domino effect. And I can't say it enough. We must just get a grip. We've got to take the reins again. And the only person truly, in my mind, that can take these reins is President Donald D. Trump, period. He will have all of these leaders across the world knowing America is back. We are strong. We are not going to tolerate all these wars. And we are peace through strength. I don't like wars. I don't like wars. I don't think anyone ever wins per se from a war. And all the civilians end up getting caught in the middle and dying. This is where we have to have good leaders that are of good mind and have strength to make these decisions, and also to have people around them that are equally as strong and equally able to bring something to the table. We're lacking quite a bit of this formula, and that's where that we have failed. We have failed.
Let's. I'm going to have Larry bring up the map of New Jersey. We'll just take a look at some of the constituents don't actually know the configuration of the district itself. It's always been that L-shaped district. So we're going to bring that up now, and we'll talk a little bit about the district itself. You have about 26,000 vets in this district, veterans. And I think the median income is a little higher now than it was. The last numbers I had were about $109,000 overall, which is a nice sizable when you put it together. And you have that section at the top, which includes Passaic County, Sussex County, and of course Bergen County, the largest of that bunch. What are the demographics there? Who are the people of the 5th district? It's really a diverse district. It's really a beautiful district as it spreads out. It was redistricted a few years back. Warren County was part of it at one point, and now it's been trimmed down differently.
It's a beautiful. It really is. I traveled all across this district and crisscrossed it sometimes in one day, and Sussex has got some beautiful agriculture, just absolutely stunning agriculture in that county. And you've also got Passaic, which is also, I only have 4 municipalities in Passaic. It's equally as beautiful with the lakes, and it's a little hilly in some places. And it has also its way. It's just equally as beautiful with the mountains and all. And then you've got Bergen County, which is a little bit more dense, also beautiful to travel through. You've got wonderful, wonderful communities that are walkable, with lovely downtowns. The transportation is fantastic in many of these municipalities. So it's just a fantastic district, and everyone is lovely. It is a very diverse group all throughout, many cultures, I have enjoyed getting to know everyone, and you can't do for one that you would for the other because everyone has something different. There's flooding issues, or there's internet issues with cabling, and getting all of the telephone, what do you call it, the internet and all of those things. We're not back in the days of just Ma Bell where you had one phone line and you didn't have all of the things interfering. Now you've got everyone on their cell phones. You have to have these towers. Everything changes. The speed of everything changes. COVID truly changed everything because more people were at home. They were using all of their devices much more, all pretty much at the time. So there's all sorts of issues and things that you have to talk about. Some people are wanting to protect their lands a little bit more. That I would call that, in some areas of Sussex County, because of the agriculture and all, there's just different concerns. And so you have to be able, once again, to have people at your table so you are understanding what's going on. You have to be out there, boots on the ground, talking with all the different groups, talking with the municipality governments, and getting out there, rolling up your sleeves. This is not a job of just checking on people's passports, their visas, doing all of those, I call them the busy work, right? Important work, but the busy work. There's a lot that needs to be heard from the people. That's what I feel that used to be done.
Do you find that the constituents, I mean, you've crisscrossed now the district. It's quite a district. So do you find that the constituents in the Bergen part of that district, which is basically the part of like almost New York, that's kind of the New York district, versus Sussex, versus there are 4 towns in Passaic, I know, that are part of the district as well. Do these differ? I mean, is there actually a different group in each of those areas that have a different need, almost like different states within the district?
I wouldn't call it that much as just the way the land is laid out. The land is laid out in Sussex to be much more agriculture. There's lots of horse farms and farms.
Right, absolutely.
So it's just different. The people are all the same. Everyone's hardworking. I would say there is a common denominator now. And guess what that common denominator is? Safety and inflation. Everyone is feeling the hit at the grocery store, at the gas pump, paying their mortgages. Everyone is feeling it. And I think that Donald Trump Jr. said it beautifully last night he said it as a joke, but it wasn't a joke, that when he goes to McDonald's and he feels that he's having sticker shock, it's a problem. It's a problem when he had to pay $48 when he was at McDonald's. So everyone is in their way, the sticker shock of where the inflation is going. It's not so great to pay $6 for a dozen of eggs. Everyone kind of sits back a little bit on that. The other thing that they're worried about is the border. We're municipal borders, right? Where everyone is feeling, we've got 900,000 illegals that have come into New Jersey.
Wow.
900,000.
I didn't know those numbers were that high.
Yes, that number was given to us over the weekend. That's a big number. So everyone is feeling that. And what does that tell you?
That's shocking.
Crime.
Wow.
It's shocking. And then there's the fentanyl. So those are the 3 things. That's why those three subjects really, those issues polled so strong. And obviously we've got the children, that we're worried about our children and all of the stuff that's going on in the school systems with that. As Congress, we don't deal with that as much, but I can tell you one thing. We don't need boys in the girls' bathrooms. We just don't. And we need girls to be in girls' sports and boys to be in boys' sports. I don't want one of my grandchildren to have a concussion because they were competing with someone of the opposite sex that was just biologically built to be stronger.
Let me ask you this. How did that all, I have my own opinion, but you're the person who is running for this position to represent us in Washington. How did that all happen? I mean, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I wouldn't even think of that. Boys in girls sports. How did that all?
You know what?
How did that all come about? I mean, it's like, wow,
We've weaponized and politicized everything. Like, that's how it happens. We can't have a hangnail without someone going up. We can politicize that. We've got to stop using the American people for politics. They are human lives. These are real issues. And we are elected to take off those political hats and fix and solve problems, right? Everyone should be treated equally, correct?
Correct.
And it's common sense. And common sense, what a concept that we have common sense. We've lost our way. And I know this sounds really simple and probably, you're going, Mary Jo, it's much more difficult. It is difficult. You're right. It is difficult. But we've made it too complicated. When I was raising my kids, I have 3 fantastic children and 2 amazing grandchildren and a great husband, and a great family of siblings and all. You know what? When we grew up as kids, we were taught something, and I passed this on to my children. Every action has a reaction. And I'm going to be taking that with me to Congress in DC. Anything I do, I'm going to look at what are the reactions of the action that I'm speaking about or putting on the table or having the conversation with everyone, right? We need to look at the reactions and back ourselves through this. And that's how I feel that you can come up with the best things. We've lost that concept because we have decided to do, in my opinion, shock factor and going too far. Let's let Americans be American and deal with what they want to have in their homes, of how they want to have their religions and how they want to teach their children and all the morals and all that. Let's let the Americans do that. And how about the schools teach our kids the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s, and government takes care of our infrastructure and our safety of our nation and making sure that we're energy independent so inflation doesn't go super high, and all of, buying America again, having, I love what President Trump said yesterday. He had some really good ideas about tax relief on certain things. Go back to the basics. Things were not bad when we were up. Were they perfect? No. Did some things need improvement? Yes. But we've gone so far over, I call it the cliff, that we've lost our foundation of what America was built upon. We were built upon 3 basic things, and liberty, happiness, and prosperity. Let's get back to that. Let's get back to respect with one another.
Do you have a concern when you hear that countries like China, the CCP, who has a government, totalitarian government, we know the history. We don't have to go over the years that Mao was there, and that there were a murderous regime for the purpose of power. So communism and Marxism is written that way, and fundamentally it's to cause a country to have a revolution on a constant basis until a goal is obtained. The CCP and the Chinese have bought up numerous plots of land across our country. I mean, a lot of land. Some of the land is even near some of our strategic bases, and that concerns me. What is your opinion about allowing what we would consider our adversaries kind of sitting in our own backyard in our country and buying up our property?
No, they've bought way too much of our agriculture, and we know that. We know that there are some states that have pretty much tried to put a kibosh on that. We've had a governor in the United States, one of the governors, that has said no more can a foreign country come in and buy up our land. That is part of our security of our country, right? Our food, many things. So I don't feel that we should. I don't think that we can go to Italy unless you're an Italian citizen and go buy land in Italy. Now, maybe you can buy an apartment. There may be rules attached to that. I don't know all those laws, but I don't think that it is just an easy thing to go do, to go purchase blocks of land. You call it hectares in some countries, if how they talk about their acreage. You just should not be able to do that. And that is releasing your rights as a country to another country, because now they own that property of what they can do. We've had a lot of our agricultural land sold to foreign countries. Are we getting the benefits of what those lands are producing? I'd like to see all of that looked at. And I'm sure a lot of it has been looked at. I would personally like to become more educated on that, because that in itself is a very, very slippery slope to go down.
These are a lot of the deeper topics that I would have hoped that if Congressman had agreed to have a debate, or a discussion debate, let's call it, that some of these could have come to the fore, because these are the topics that are not discussed as openly and as readily, and they need to be, because they are a threat to our way of life here, our Constitution, and the United States of America. Let's just go to a quick clip. It's the Bergen Record interview. It's a short one. It's a nice little interview, and that's our anchor paper here in the county. So why don't we go to the Bergen County interview, and I'll call on Mark.
It's good to be with you today. It's good to chat with you. Tell our viewers a bit about your candidacy, why you're running, and what you want to get done.
Well, first of all, thank you, Ed, for having me, and thank you to all of your viewers for joining us today. I am running as the Congress for U.S. Congress, District 5 here in New Jersey, and I am just wanting to make all of our lives so much better. We deserve better in District 5, and I am fully committed to taking on the position as your next Congresswoman.
Tell us about some of your priorities if you go down to Washington in the next term.
The number one, if you want to look at the polling of how everything is polled, number one is obviously the economy, number two is the border, and number three is crime. I always say, for me, it's all about the border, because as we all know, and what we have seen, our borders are wide open, and it's a very simple fix. We just shut the borders down, and then we secure our borders back. If you cut your arm, you're not just going to put a Band-Aid on that. You're going to tourniquet, assess it, and then move on. That's how I feel that we need to do on this border right now.
And then the economy. What's first for you on the economy?
First for me for the economy is we need to become energy independent. That is fueling our prices at the grocery store, at the gas station. Everything we touch has to do with, so we need to be energy independent and not dependent on foreign, and having them telling us what it's going to cost on our fuels. Here we can control all of that.
And then crime.
Crime, we need to let our police force do their job. If, we can't have this catch and release. So that kind of feeds into that whole border thing. We've got some of the cartels, some gang members have come through on this border, and we're just letting them through, sadly to say.
What should voters know about you as a person?
As a person, I am a mother and a grandmother. I was originally from Dallas, Texas, and live in New Jersey. I was a performer. That's where my degree was. And I am just, I love everything about what I'm doing running for Congress. It's just part of my life now, and that's my commitment. My family is fully supporting, which is really wonderful. You really have to have that family support. So that's who I am. I come from a small business, grew up, became a performer, and here I am sitting today running for Congress.
Mary Jo, it's been great to get to know you today, and thank you for coming in, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and thank you to all of you. Remember, MaryJoForCongress.com.
There you go. Good little interview. I like that. It was short and sweet, but it was good. Got to the point, and it covered all the issues well, which was very nice.
It's what it's really about. He was a really great and very gracious, and the issues are just very simple. Like I said, it's all about the inflation, the border, and crime. We've got to work together, get this job done, have a congresswoman that's going to be committed to the job. And I wish that Josh would have been here with us so we could have had this discussion, but I look forward to having the discussion with all the other congressmen. when I am elected so we can get this country back on track again.
Get it back on track. So you were at the rally, the big rally last night. That was on Sunday, and it was iconic in a sense. What was the experience there? What was the energy in the room? Of course, they said there were as many people outside that didn't get in. They were watching it from outside. But what did it feel like being there with the president and all these great? I mean, they had everybody was there. Elon, everybody was there.
It was absolutely incredible. And it's very disappointing how the media is portraying what happened yesterday. It was peaceful, energetic, it was informative, it was exciting. There were so many people outside. They anticipate 100,000 plus. The numbers have been all over. Inside, there was standing room only. It was full capacity at 20,000 and change. I cannot imagine missing that event. I'm so happy I was there to listen. Dr. Phil was there. Elon Musk was there. Vivek was there. I mean, it was just a lineup that was incredible. Vivek was incredible. All I know is we are not just electing President Trump as our president of the United States. He is bringing with him a team that is incredible, that are all experts in their fields. We are lucky as a country that all of these individuals have put themselves forward to give their time and their energy and their expertise to what is needed to be done for this country, because so much has happened wrong over this last administration, and Josh is part of that administration, that we cannot take forever to fix everything. We need experts like this that know how to get the job done, and I look forward to being part of this administration to bring us to where we need to go.
So I want to throw up a photograph of President Trump, an iconic photograph that we've all seen now since the incident in Butler. So hopefully Larry can grab that and put it up. And this was the scene where he was shot, and he had to raise his hands, and of course blood was coming down the side of his head. As Larry gets that picture ready to be placed up, what's your gut reaction when you see that photograph? Obviously there's a lot of feelings that go with that moment. Now that was just probably seconds, maybe 20 seconds, 30 seconds after he was shot, and then the Secret Service had grabbed him and was hoisting him up. But this was not something that happened well after. This is something that happened simultaneously. There he is, bleeding,
Yes.
just being shot, nearly killed by just maybe an inch. In other words, if he had moved his head one way or the other. He talks about that beautiful graph of the border, and I always find that amusing. But at the same time, in reality, it was almost as though that was someone looking over him, divine intervention, I would say. What's your feeling? What's your gut feeling? Your visceral feeling? Your human feeling when you look at that picture? Aside from him raising his hand in defiance, what's your feeling? What are we seeing here in our country that we have to see a picture like this?
I have to tell you that every time I see the picture, I can only think of what if. And he has been blessed, no question about it. I really believe that. I believe that God has a path for all of us. There's a journey for all of us. And there were angels protecting President Trump that day. And when we all saw him raise up, that he was okay as best as we could see, because we could see that energy and that fight in him. We were able to breathe again, because I can tell you for a moment there, I don't know, I think most of America was holding their breath. We would be having a different conversation right now. And thank God, and I say that with my heart, that he is as strong and has angels around him. Because you know what? There's a reason why he is who he is. And I wish that America could just take a breath and look at what we need as our country and stop trying. And I mean this with all my heart, Mike. We all need to start being kinder and less angry. And there's an evil among us. And I don't know what that evil is, but I think we're all being tested. Every one of us is being tested. And we have to do the right thing. The right thing is that Donald Trump needs to be our president, because this administration has not been able to guide us in the direction that we're supposed to be going. Donald Trump is going to guide us in that direction. And what is that direction? That direction is protecting our freedom of speech, protecting our freedom of country. For all those men that fought their lives to give us our freedom. That's what this picture is representing to me, is freedom. Our flag is still standing. I mean, what an iconic picture that he's reaching up and almost touching that flag, right? You could look at this and analyze this as much as you want. The real bottom line is that this is a photograph that we don't ever want to see again in history. I don't want to ever see another president being shot at. I don't want to ever see that we are so divided in our country that some of us become numb and make jokes about this photograph. We need to unite. I am going to bring every ounce of power of my heart that I can to bridge whatever gaps we can bridge so we can talk again, so we don't have to worry about something like this act ever happening. Because this was, for me, just awful and evil. And we don't need this anymore. We need to be a country united. The United States of America. That's what we need to come back to.
Excellent. Excellent. I was hoping last night when I was watching the rally that I would hear and look into the audience say, we have got a great candidate out of the 5th District. We'd like to bring her on stage, Mary Jo Guinchard, and you could give a talk and you could be up there on the stage. That would have been really dynamic, right?
Well, you know what? The star, Donald Trump, and all of the people that he brought on to give us their expertise of what we needed. And one day, I promise you, I will be up on that stage. But when the journey takes me there, that's when I'll be there. But
you certainly will be. You certainly will be. You certainly will be. So, so we're gonna wrap it up, as they say. You know the business, yes. Right? We're gonna do a wrap. What I'd like to do is get kind of a overview, final statement. We're going to be dissecting this nice little interview and fixing it and everything so that it'll go out looking really sharp. And tell the constituents of the 5th District and, more importantly, the constituents of the United States of America what they should feel about your candidacy and sending you to Washington to represent them, how they will feel confident and what they would expect.
First of all, thank you so much for having me on, and thank you to the audience for listening. It's so important that what you're doing and everyone is doing to give as much information about a nominee as possible to the constituents and to America. I promise you, as your next congresswoman, I will do my very best, honestly. And this isn't just a blanket. Everyone makes a promise and, oh, yeah, you say this today, but are you going to do it? I've done it. I've lived it in my life as a mother, as a grandmother, as a elected official. I give you my heart. I'll give you every hour that you need of me. I will give you 24/7. I will not stop. I will not. I want, and I know this is, I am an optimist. I am an optimist, but I am a realist also. I know that nothing's perfect, but I will do my very best to always try to problem solve and come up with solutions that are best for my district, my constituents, and that will also be good for America. America first. You are so important to me. I love my country. I love my state. I love my constituents. I so many of you in these last 2 campaigns, and especially this campaign. I love my family, and it breaks my heart to see that we are so divided. We are not going to be a divided. I am going to do my very best to try to bridge as many gaps as possible and get Congress to talking again. And you know what? I think they want to do this. I think they want to do this. And I think that Donald Trump, you know what? I don't think, I know that Donald Trump feels the same way. Everybody has a good heart. Sometimes we just get lost a little bit. We're going to get us all back. I'm going to get us there. I promise you that. And if not, you're going to be at my table telling me, Mary Jo, what are you thinking? That's why I want you to have a seat at my table, so we can stay balanced. We can stay fair and not make being an elected official a career anymore. Let's bring back elected officials being advocates for their districts and for America. It's MaryJoForCongress.com. You can donate still right now to my website. We're doing that last push for this election. We have, as you said, 7 days and with a few more hours to go with this election. Everyone is already voting, early voting, and writing in on their ballots to do mail-in ballots. Please vote. I ask for your vote for Mary Jo for Congress. And I look forward to representing you in Washington, D.C. Give me that chance. You won't be sorry. Josh is doing a ghost campaign, as we know. That is not the way that you want to elect someone into Congress. You want them to be 100% committed, knowing when they win this election, they're here to stay. I'm here to stay for you. Thank you, and God bless all of you.
Mary Jo Guinchard, thanks for coming on tonight. And I think we got a great idea of what you could do for the constituents here in the 5th District, but not only there, but also in Washington, where you can work with other great legislators down there to make our country great again, and make our country safe again, and make our country wealthy again. And that's an echo from the president. And I still offer the congressman an opportunity to come on the show. Show is a bit conservative, but I would always treat him fair and balanced. That's the way I would put the show. So we're pleased to have you on this evening. What we're going to do is, as we go out, we're going to do a very short excerpt. You had a really fun interview at the rally in on the coast down there, I think, with a Vietnam couple that was at Wildwood.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're going to show that. I like that. I pulled that one, and then we'll go out with Lee Greenwood's "Proud to Be in the USA."
One thing I was going to say to you, Mike, also make America healthy again.
Make America healthy again. And that's very important,
Absolutely.
Right? Because we've seen how the food and the pharmaceutical companies and also the food industry has really done a disservice on many of the food products in our diets.
Yeah.
And those things affect our children, they affect newborns, they affect seniors. And I think the addition of Bob Kennedy, who has dedicated his life. I did an interview with Bob in the late 90s when he was working on the Riverkeeper and doing tremendous work all his life. And he's an amazing human being. That's all I have to say. Amazing. And people like yourself and Bob Kennedy and Elon Musk and Tulsi Gabbard have been brought in now into this independent movement to make the country great again. So I think it's really going to be terrific. So once again, thanks for being on the show. And we will go out with that short rally with the Vietnam couple. I thought that was very cute. And then we'll go right into Lee Greenwood's song, which is a song that you want us to play. We'll see you next.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye to everybody.
Thanks for being on.
Everybody, I'm here in Wildwood. As you can see, the crowd has grown. It's amazing. And I've met two incredible people from Vietnam, and they have something that they want to tell you. I have Jan and Ben Pho, and they have a message for you, America.
Right. We are Vietnamese. We've been here like 35 years, and we from a socialist country. So we don't want America turn to the socialist country. So that's why we fight. We have to stand up and go out and get fight for mid-American right again. But only Donald J. Trump, he can do that, and you guys will be the next one too. MAGA Mary.
Thank you.
Go for Conrad.
Thank you. We love Trump and we love America. We love the country. That's why we come here. We want the freedom. And we legally, we wait for border. We wait and we come here. We work in. We have a card. We get a license. We go any school. We everything. We want freedom. We love the country and we come here. We want freedom. Please.
And we need everybody get out to vote with the ID, okay? Vote with ID.
So you hear what they're saying? Thank you so much. We're going to get Trump in. And you know what? We're going to make them realize they're going to stay free because that's what they came here for. Thank you, everybody.
If tomorrow all the things were gone I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA. Well, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say,